Hey there, Dr. Christianson here with you. I want to talk about some of the 4 worst chemicals for triggering diabetes and what you can do about them. So the first point to address is that chemicals can cause diabetes. You know, it's gotten to be rather well accepted amongst the higher levels of research. That view has not really made its way into the common beliefs that most people, or even most doctors, I would argue, that they have, but the data has shown that conclusively. You know, I saw a paper that came out just a few weeks ago that showed that children who grew up with air pollution, certain types of air pollution, have as much as a 3-fold risk of diabetes as similar kids without the air pollution. And we're seeing that for all ages. So the big picture concept is that we've got many genes that are susceptible to diabetes, and chemicals activate them in ways to turn that on. So even body weight, body fat, you know, so much links have been made between body fat and diabetes, but there are some that have body fat and then no diabetes, and then vice versa. And the distinguishing factor is found to be the chemical burden. So those with toxic fat get diabetic. Those with clean fat just have clean fat. They don't get diabetic. But shocking, but totally true. So I want to get into which are the biggest documented toxins, where do they come from, you know, how can you prevent your exposure, and then also, if they're in your body, how can you get them out of your system? Because this is critical. Diabetes now affects the majority of adults. The majority, more than half of Americans have diabetes or prediabetes. And this is based upon 2015 numbers. So current numbers likely would be even higher. This is especially important because those that have thyroid disease or adrenal dysfunctions, they're at the very highest risks of all. In fact, thyroid disease has almost a complete overlap between the mechanisms of it and diabetes. And adrenal dysfunction is all about regulating blood sugar. So big overlaps. So our first big category of chemicals would be phthalates. So this is a silent T, like pterodactyl, but with a TH sound. Phthalates, pH. Where do we find these? Primarily cosmetics, plastics, food containers, and then foods stored in plastics. So you get like a steak that's wrapped up with plastic, or you get whole milk in a plastic carton. Fat is a storer of phthalate, and our food does that as well. So fatty foods, especially foods stored in plastics, tend to have high amounts of this. So what do these things do? Well, they act as endocrine disruptors, and that means they alter the way that these regulatory hormones work in your body. And I don't know, kind of an odd irony is that we use cosmetics to make us look more hormonally healthy or attractive or alluring or whatnot. And oddly enough, they block our body's own natural hormone cosmetics. If you've got good testosterone, good estrogen, you'll have more characteristics of appeal. You know, you'll be a better draw perhaps, you know. So the odd thing is the cosmetics actually block your own hormones from doing the things you want done anyway. And phthalates build up for long periods of time in the body. So how do you avoid them? Think a lot about your food packaging and your food storage as far as 2 big categories. Focus on glass. You know, you can use glass in the kitchen for glass containers. We love mason jars. You know, we've got all sizes of those for glasses, but also for storing things in. They work great with the metal lids. But then also cosmetics. I'm a big fan of Anne-Marie Gianni Organics. Edible skincare. That's not their tagline, but it should be. It's all food-based. You can actually eat it. It's so clean. So think a lot about your cosmetics and then food storage. Also, the saran wrap, just ditch that stuff. Do wax paper. Even aluminum foil is better, but ditch the saran wrap, and certainly do not heat things that have that. Next big category, Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Big fancy name, PAHs. So these are known carcinogens, and these are derivatives of coal tar and oil products. These also form on things that burn. So like smoked meats, cured meats, charbroiled meats, tobacco, those are all PAHs. You know, you fill up your car with gas and you smell those gas fumes, you just got a big dose of PAH. So you want to stand away when the car is filling and wait till it stops and then go take the hose out. but don't be where you can smell that, because that smell, it's entering your body. So these are known carcinogens, but also they disrupt the insulin receptors in your liver and your pancreas. How do you avoid them? Step one for a lot of things for good health is please don't smoke. Step two, charbroil, charcoal meats, really avoid them. Maybe once or twice a month. If you do have them, certainly use antioxidants, rosemary, ginger, turmeric, and then avoid gasoline products and strong solvents, strong cleaning compounds. Next, we've got PCBs, polychloral biphenyls, bisphenols. So these have actually been banned. These were made from 1929 to 1979, and they're no longer produced, but they're all over the place in the environment, and they recycle in the environment. So paints, plastic, pigments, dyes, old appliances, adhesives, tapes, they build up in our food as well, especially in fish and seafood. So they act as endocrine disruptors. They stay in the body for 20, 30 years or longer, and they're known triggers of diabetes and cancers. So avoiding those is really thinking about good seafood that's small, so small fish. So the size of the fish's mouth is one of the biggest predictors of its compound of PCBs. So sardines are awesome foods. You cannot go wrong with sardines. Also shrimp, shellfish, not so much PCB contaminant. But farmed fish and large fish, those are the big concerns. And then the fourth one here would be arsenic, as far as being so well documented as being a trigger for diabetes. And this one, think about arsenic as water. We get this from our water. In the US, more than 10% of municipal water is known to be completely unsafe because of its arsenic content. Other areas may not be at an overt danger level, but still can be unsafe. Arsenic also blocks thyroid hormones and harms the beta cells. It damages the beta cells in the pancreas that form insulin. And arsenic is also pretty difficult because it makes your body less able to detoxify. So that's a vicious cycle. You can't detoxify, and you're getting this stuff in your body, and so more of everything else builds up in your system. So how do you avoid arsenic? Well, you really want to use purified water. So reverse osmosis is my favorite. I don't like buying water in plastic. Then we're back to plastic compounds, phthalates and whatnot. So use RO and drink out of glass. Have a home RO and drink out of glass containers for the bulk of your water. And the paradox here is that one of the steps for detoxing is being well hydrated. So not only do you want to have good water, but you want lots of it. Other sources of arsenic, alcohol is high in arsenic, wine especially. And the irony is that the more old groves that wine comes from, the better the wine is, often the higher in arsenic that it'll end up being for various reasons. So better to avoid and to minimize. So now, how do you get rid of this stuff? Well, the first step is always to pre-tox. That means avoid what you can avoid. The next step is to detox, and you want to hydrate. So at least an ounce of water per pound of your body weight. You want to go high fiber as well. So at least 30, 40 grams or more per day. And resistant starch is especially powerful for detoxifying the body. You want to sweat at least 3 or more times per week. Here in the Sonoran Desert for much of the year, that's not hard to arrange. So come visit if you need help that way. But also, you may want to test. So if you've had blood sugar issues, if you've had thyroid disease, it's worth digging deep to see if you've got a toxic burden. And there's some clues you can see from routine blood tests. There's a test called an ALT. And almost every time blood is drawn, they do an ALT. That's a good gauge of liver function. If you're a woman and your ALT is over 20, that's suspicious. That's a sign saying you could be carrying some chemical burden. Especially it's suspicious for PCBs, lead, cadmium. Also bilirubin, which is a common part of all blood panels, when that's more than 0.8, that can be a sign saying there's PCBs present in your body. If these things are off, there are more detailed tests. So Integrative Health, we do detailed toxicology testing for metals and these various compounds. And it's always nice to know what your burden is, because then you may need more detailed detox. And you want to know if you do, and you want to know if it worked. In terms of reversing the diabetes, helping your thyroid. This is a big root cause for many with Hashimoto's, is that toxic burden. Your thyroid is a concentrator, and it's got more junk in it than you could have even in your liver or elsewhere. So make sense of your toxins, eliminate what's around that you can control, and clean the body out. In the meantime, take great care of yourselves, and we'll talk in really soon. Bye-bye.